Okay, well, welcome to Purpose People. I've got one of my friends, esteemed colleagues that we've worked with for many years. He's from a company called FilmDuo, and he's one half. We will have the other half a bit later. But ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you to Andy Patterson-Jones.
Hi there. Great to be here.
Thank you for joining us on the Purpose People podcast. And we've known each other many years.
Yep.
So just tell us a little bit about FilmDuo. Let's just start there and we'll work backwards.
FilmDuo is an embryonic company. We launched a film best part of just under a month ago, which is our first major production, about wildlife photographer Harry Skeggs.
Yeah.
And we went into the project, which has taken 2 years from the original seed of idea, but mainly about 9 months, the term of giving birth to something to make. And we knew we needed to name our company as part of that. We booked Mayfair Hotel. We booked a cinema there, 200-seater cinema for 2 nights in April.
Yeah.
And from that point, Jerry, my business partner, and I had to name our company. And we just loved the idea. Film duos in films is great, Bonnie and Clyde, Thelma and Louise, etc. And as filmmakers, the two of us dovetail our skills so much. So on any given day, one of us might be directing, the other producing, or we're both directing, and there's a fluidity about how we work. So we genuinely feel we got each other's back when it comes to what we make together.
So obviously we're talking about that's like the end goal. That's where you are now in that space. But let's flip all the way back then and let's. How did you, because I know you as a graphic designer first and foremost, so how did you decide that was the thing that you were really good at? And then how did that, turn into a career? Let's just start there.
Well, I've always had this creative side, in sixth form of school, I was in the art set and so on. But when it came to sitting in the careers library, I just went, well, I want to work in media. That's all I seem to have in terms of focus. And basically, we're talking the late 80s.
Yeah.
I'm that old. There was no internet. There was no iPhones. There was no, the tech we have at our fingertips nowadays. And the idea of being a director was Steven Spielberg. It was Hollywood. It was I had no terms of reference.
Favorite Spielberg film, quickly?
I suppose Schindler's List. No, you don't immediately say favourite, but I think it's his most important film.
Yeah, definitely.
That's a very.
But you're right.
Film.
That whole thing of being a film director, it just seemed a million miles away. You have to go to Los Angeles, live in Hollywood, and it's a lot more accessible now. Yeah,
it is, and we're in a totally different world where you've got kids, I've got a son, and their world is YouTube much more than it is, terrestrial TV or satellite TV. So the consumption of video content is huge now.
Yeah.
So I was an artistic person without an art form for many years. So I decided not to go to art college. I went and did history and English. I did a humanities degree, which was a bit like climbing a mountain by the hardest terrain, because I'm an artistic person, but there was something, I was just doing better in history and English in my A levels than I seemed to be doing in my art. I enjoyed my art, but to do an exam in art just was a bit, get to grips with it. So the fascinating thing when I finished, the one course I really enjoyed in my multidisciplinary course was visual communications, which was film studies.
Yeah.
So, and I was top of that class. And the other ones I was a bit, struggled a bit sometimes or did okay. But I did a massive dissertation on Peter Sellers, and I, visual communications involved sitting and watching a film like Fitzcarraldo, Werner Herzog film, and then another 2 or 3 hours watching the making of Fitzcarraldo.
Okay,
and I was happy as a could be, because it's like that. I'm studying this, but I'm loving it. So, I made myself a designer. I didn't. Sorry, what I was going to tell you was, I came out of doing my academic degree and I was a bit lost. I thought I was going to be a magazine journalist and stuff, and then I just said, I just feel like doing a bit of painting. And in a space of 2 or 3 months, I did 30 or 40 big canvas portraits.
Okay,
I just went bananas of all this suppressed creativity that just came to the surface.
Yeah.
And that got me into working in a design studio as a copywriter. And then when I worked as a copywriter, I just picked up computers faster than any other designer. So I became the typesetter,
Was that like the Apple Macs? And
yeah. And made myself indispensable. And then I had quite a good break. I was at a cricket game, social cricket game, and got chatting to this guy who worked for Puma. So I was working at a small agency, 3 or 4 of us. But within 6 months, we managed to win Puma UK account. And then a year later, Puma Germany as well.
Big accounts.
Yeah. And being very new to computers, we had this break where lots of their tracksuits and other things were going to be delayed in the Far East. So they came to us and said, can you draw them for us? So we went, oh, yeah, sure. And we'd had the computer about a month and we brought in a guy that helped us do it. But we made about 200, sort of designs. It's that Richard Branson principle, say yes, and then work out how to do something.
Yeah,
but I was saying, I made myself a designer. I modeled people that were really good designers and been to art college.
Yeah.
And my zenith as a designer, or one of them was, I went to Australia in 1997, and in 2000, I'd gone there. Part of purpose was to work on the Olympics, and I did work on the Olympics.
Oh wow!
I was sat in reception, and the hairs were back on my neck because I went, this was my goal. And what was interesting about Australia and Sydney at the time was, if you were outside the Olympic building, there's a thing called cultural cringe in Australia.
Right.
So everyone's going, oh, it's going to be the worst Olympics ever. But inside the building, everyone generally it's their second or third Olympics. They were focused. I run the wrestling, I run the fencing or whatever. Yeah. And we had this 5-person studio just doing the look and feel of the games. So one of my jobs was all the vehicles that went behind the torch, motorbikes, cars, right through to an aeroplane. I branded all those.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
I don't have photos because it was, again, pre your iPhone.
It's been everywhere nowadays. So you said that, I like what you said earlier. You said something like you were an artist without the medium. You hadn't decided what the medium was. So you obviously painting was the go-to, and then you got a lot of joy out of graphic design and the principles of using, type on screen and setting and stuff like that. So was film always at some point I will segue into film, or was it just I'll keep going because I'm making money doing what I'm doing?
Enjoying being a designer up to a point, because actually, and you know this well as your career in design, is that designers don't tend to talk much. They're very good communicators because they can visually communicate, and they might need to pitch their ideas. But it's quite a solitary, quiet profession a lot of the time. Headphones on, create. That changes if you take on more of I went from a junior designer to being a creative director, and you become more of a presenter. But it's when you and I connected in Bristol, for many years doing networking, when you pitch your business in 1 minute at a networking event. And I like, with filming, it's like, it's sound, it's vision, it's, the graphics are still useful, title graphics and, art direction. I would classify myself as a photographer that was principally an art, a photography-led designer, art director. But then this small distinction when you start to work in film is a photographer pans and bang, takes a shot. Usually, or a good discipline is hold the camera still and let people come into the shot when it's moving image.
Yeah.
So, for many years I thought I was going to end up being a photographer, but I just go, no, I don't really want people telling me what to do for what picture to take commercially. That's not going to stack up. But with film, it ticks all the boxes, and I think it's a much richer, more 360 creative experience. To be involved in film.
I've always, the thing that really I love about film is the storytelling aspect of it. That you can read a book and your own imagination creates those things, but I think with a film you have a finite amount of time to get it there. An hour and a half, 2 hours. I mean, some films go on for 4 hours, but you've got that finite amount of time that said, how do I communicate this story in the quickest, simplest way using visual imagery? And that nowadays can be 60 seconds, it could be 2 minutes, it could be 5 minutes. But at its heart is, how do I tell a story that captures people's imagination? And for me, that's why I really love the medium of film.
Yeah, and I would credit you in particular as being someone that's opened my eyes to it being accessible. Whereas I've said, these directors on a plinth or whatever. I won this client as a Maddox Gallery in Mayfair.
Yeah.
That from almost our first pitch, because I involved you on, as creation with the website. We were going, well, you have to have Maddox Gallery TV.
Yeah.
And the client was actually going, I don't think so. But within the short period of time, we were filming events, PR, stunts. Bradley Theodore painted a Rolls Royce outside the gallery and had a huge crowd outside. That won them Rolls Royce as a client, So we would take at least 2 cameramen up and you and I would art direct, these events. So that was one aspect of getting into being a filmmaker. But actually I credit lockdown in a way, like people navigated lockdown in different ways. So some people, I know creative people, like I've got a friend who's a photographer who principally photographs hotels. So they just had to put their feet up for the best part of 2 years because it's like, can't go to any hotel.
Yeah.
But I went on quite a deep inner journey of I've got to learn how to edit. And I just used the time to learn Premiere and make that transition, from just the 2-dimensional to being a much more filmmaker. Yeah.
The thing that I really what inspires me is it's weird. I always seem to stumble upon when it's on. It's like the BAFTAs, for example. Right. And, when they're doing the awards and people are going up there and winning the awards and going like you, there's the backstory of how they made the film.
Yeah.
But I like the backstory of the person. And it was understanding the backstory of the person that I realized they're just like me and you.
Yeah.
They just said, you know what, let's just buy a camera and let's just give it a go.
Yeah.
And it was that where let's just take the cameras and go to London and let's just see what happens.
Yeah.
And then we created that environment where, oh my gosh, someone's painting the Rolls Royce. And then you've got a whole crowd of people around. And it's just as much as the activity was filming other people's reaction in that environment. And you're creating your own story. And for me, that's why I kind of led with film is accessible for everybody.
Yeah.
It's that Spielberg in a way was a film director trying new techniques. We see paper mache mountains and all that sort of stuff. He just made it accessible. And it always takes me back to when I was a kid playing with Lego and telling stories.
Yeah, right.
My eyes were the cameras and I was telling these stories.
Yeah.
And all you're doing really is now having someone filming you still telling that story. The things are bigger, like the sets are bigger. There's maybe more at stake. There's a bit of money involved. But I firmly believe that there's nothing stopping a filmmaker making films nowadays.
No, I mean, sometimes creative people don't realise how difficult it is for non-creative people to do the things that we find super easy.
Yeah.
I see that with musicians, that someone can sing and you hear someone who can't sing. I'm somewhere in between, I think.
I'm terrible. I'm great after about 20 pints.
Yeah.
I don't drink anymore.
But do you know what I mean? It's like you might see a shot and, you work with a cameraman or take something yourself and but other people just, that's not what they can do.
Yeah.
But they can do a brilliant contract for a legal firm or whatever,
It goes back to purpose, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think the thing that stood out in our conversation was that you had this creative thing and you didn't want to go down the traditional route, and you've gone on a journey where you've explored it through graphic design, you explored it through painting, and now you're exploring it through filming. What do you enjoy most? Do you enjoy the art direction, or do you enjoy overseeing the final edits? What do you enjoy, the meeting the people?
It's so rich because you never quite know what you're going to enjoy. So with Dare to Hope, which we've just launched, it made sense because Jerry and I weren't going on the expedition, that only one of us worked super closely with Sam, the self-shooting director,
Yeah.
on the edit, because it's just otherwise a bit overkill. So I purposely stepped back from that. I ran the budget of all things, which is a great learning curve, because part of what Jerry and I are doing, we want to be good producers as well as good directors. Yeah. And I got some help from someone to, do good spreadsheets and stuff. But I actually enjoyed probably most being the MC on the night and presenting the film.
Yeah.
And as I say, we booked it in April, prepared it within an inch of its life. And then, 10 minutes before the launch of the film, everyone's starting to look at their phones because the Queen's died.
Yeah.
So people whispering to me, don't mention it. And it's like, well, talk about elephant in a room. And so for the first 15 minutes it was a second screening, I sat there and I went, what's my role here as the MC for this event? And it's like, I went, okay, I'll tell people that we prepared in April, and of all the unforeseen circumstances, I'm sorry to tell you, because I'll be the first for half the audience to know that the Queen had died. Yeah. It's a bit like, JF Kennedy just got bumped off in Dallas, that type of momentous thing. Looking back, my voice was a little bit, on edge, because when you do public speaking, you don't always know if you're feeling quite a strong emotion or you just, but I always felt in control. It's just like, it's
a pretty big announcement. You're turning up there. You're turning up there for like a labor of love that, as you said, it's taken 2 years, 9 months to birth, so to speak. And then you're thrown just the biggest curveball there is, really. Yeah. And probably the most famous person on the planet. Yeah. I read some stats the other day. They reckon 4 million people watched the funeral. Right. Not 4 million, 4 billion.
Yeah, 4 billion, right.
4 million. 4 billion people watched it. So that's like half of the earth knew about her,
Exactly.
And for me, it was being in London at the time of that as well, and seeing all the banners change. So when we left the event, we saw the banners change and the Queen was everywhere. And it was just, I'll never forget that time. No. The movie was fantastic, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but I always remember that moment.
But it was a deeper experience for me because I lost my mum in May. Wow. My mum was in her 80s. She was quite an avid royalist, so I think she'd be quite pleased to die the year the Queen died, if she's going to die any year. Yeah. But my mum, after my dad died, decided that she wanted to raise money for her hospital in Pembroke. She helped raise £300,000 and was invited to the garden party at the, and asked me to be her chaperone. So that's the closest I got to the Queen, about 10 feet away at the garden party. Wow. But I'm, I respected her, but I'm not an arch royalist. But I think the combination of, just, still grieving, myself. Yeah. But, both Harry and I were on stage at that point, and we tried to convey the message that, but what would she really want? She'd like us to celebrate. There's lots of champagne here tonight.
Well, she's a patron of the arts.
Yeah, exactly. And I just felt the energy of the room moved to everyone having permission to enjoy the evening, but mark the evening. Yeah. And the other key thing I enjoyed about the project was something where I sort of, I'm a great Christopher Nolan fan, obviously Spielberg and people like that. But when it comes to the music, I'm really intrigued with a film like Dunkirk, how the director has used music absolutely the core of the storytelling. And again, as you know, I approached you, say, Darrell, we haven't got a lot of money left, but we really want an original soundtrack. Do you know anyone who could help us here? And you went, well, yeah, we can help. Creation can help. Yeah. And that was one of the most, fantastic parts of the film, was what you guys did with your team did with the music.
It goes back to what you're saying, right? It goes back to say yes, and we'll figure it out afterwards. I knew I had two people in a team, Nathan and George, who were exceptional in terms of music and stuff. Yeah. And just going to them and tell them this was the opportunity, just woke them up. They were like, wow, this is incredible. Yeah. And they bought into the journey. They saw the visuals, and, Nathan, I know, just loved looking at Antarctica. It's very much like sci-fi. It looks like an alien planet, and I know Nathan absolutely loves doing sci-fi stuff anyway, so it was up his street. George is a phenomenal musician anyway. You know, he gets the keys to his local church and just plays organ. Probably plays Pink Floyd on there or whatever else. But he's just a muso. That's what he does. So it gave him an outlet to express himself. But, you know, that's going back to what we said, an artist that needed a medium to express themselves, that this is what this film did. It gave a whole load of people a medium to express themselves. And talk about film, you've got film, but there's so much to film.
Absolutely.
There's a videographer, there's the editing, there's the script writing, there's the soundtrack, there's the organising of budgets. And for me, if everybody's in their lane, as in what their purpose is, you create something special, which is what they did. On top of that, you've got Harry Skeggs, who's the artist, that's telling a story as well. And that's what I love about film. It brings so many things together to create the medium. You know, you might be an exceptional soundtrack, but not so good as a videographer. But there's room for everybody. And that's why when I look at that piece, Dare to Hope, there were so many moving parts to it. But, you know, you talk to Nathan and George, it's one of the highlights of the year.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
You know, and so that really excited me. So let's just delve into Dare to Hope, because people can watch it. It's on the Nikon website on YouTube. So you type Nikon in YouTube, type Dare to Hope, you'll be able to find it. It's about 30 minutes long, but it's well worth a watch. Great soundtrack, great visuals, really worth investing some time into seeing how things have changed and how nature always finds a way. But how did that whole project...
also add that very soon it's going to be on WaterBear, which is a new platform for sort of conservation-based documentaries. Nikon are very involved with WaterBear. So what's good about that is you watch a film and then at the end it goes, so what do you want to do? Like, do you want to sponsor something, do this, do that, do the other? So we've just gone through all the contractual side of that, and I can't say a date yet, but it won't be too long before that's on that platform. No,
great. So just tell us then how that project come about.
So my experiences and development through branding Maddox for 4 or 5 years, which was a co-journey with yourself, led to me to meet some quite influential people in the art world and actually get some introductions to various artists. And really, there's, for what we do, there's not much point dealing with a fledgling artist, because they can't afford very little in terms of video and this sort of stuff. But with especially emerging, becoming an established artist, which Harry, ticks that box, is that his body work before he's met us is brilliant and amazing, and he's making his breakthroughs, but he'd never embraced film before. So in the full on lockdown, we made a short film for him, 4-minute film, when he was joining Clarendon Gallery, and he told a lovely story about a tusker elephant that he'd managed to photograph in Kenya, and then he sort of just dropped, "Oh yeah, I'm going to Antarctica soon. I'm looking for a cameraman to go with me."
Okay.
So we were working on a TV project, and identified Sam, who was doing a great job again in lockdown, to direct that, largely on his own devices. Young guy, 25. And we came together as a team, and we basically said to Harry, said that we can, again, the say yes and then work it out. We said, if you put a bit of seed money in, we will help you get the rest of the money and we'll get it off the ground.
Wow.
So he had that small leap of faith to do that first step. And we offered people packages, sponsors. So there was the principal sponsor, and then there was the second sponsor, and then there was the more support sponsors. And we Harry's sort of not quite an ambassador for Nikon, but he's very respected, and he might well become one. So we met with the head of marketing for Nikon, and he said, "Yeah, I'll be your principal sponsor."
Wow.
And I think I've said in other discussions with people that what's been lovely about this project is you push against the door and it opens, whereas sometimes you get lots of locked doors. This one, we got the other sponsorship money in and commitment. We knew they were going, both Sam and he were going.
Yeah.
So it took on a life of its own. And then Jerry did a brilliant job of prepping Sam for some of the things that would make a good story. So, the classic one being, if you can find jeopardy, focus on it. So the jeopardy for Harry was the struggle he was getting to get good pictures when the weather wasn't great.
It's quite core to the actual film as well.
Is.
Yeah,
and to Newman in the Goatpost, we amp it up a little bit with the music and the sound and the structure of the story, and we followed the hero's journey quite a lot. But
then you externalise what probably is going, because he's quite a cool character, but I don't think you can mask the fact that you did look at times like, oh my gosh, time is running out and I'm not going to get the shot I want. You could see that in the video.
And the signature image, the between the cracks is people appreciate that so much more having seen the film, because it's a miraculous moment that he gets that 10 seconds to run to the end of the boat and capture that shot. You know, and the iceberg's not near, but when you see the picture, it's like he spent a whole day there,
And it's an incredible shot, and they could have missed it,
Absolutely.
It's like
he was
that.
talking to Sam, and then he went, "Oh, hang on," and he pushed Sam aside and ran for the shot. But just to go on to because you're a values-driven person in your business and who you work with, the reason we committed so much to this project was because we believe in Harry.
Yeah.
And part of the reason we believe in him is he's educated us about this animal first, wild and free approach, and you see it in the film where the couple of times when he doesn't take, I love it when the penguins are walking past him and he goes, I can't look at them, and it's just like, he's so authentic. If you get to know him, he's not doing that for the camera.
Not like some photographers who might have to gaffer tape their paw down just to get the shot or whatever.
Put chicken wings on their camera to
exactly.
But so I think deep down, Jerry and I always knew that we were making something good, but we had to keep pushing and pushing and pushing to, the edit you have seen at the cinema was at least the 21st edit.
Yeah.
And it's that, real hard yards of, I'm more executive producing this from an editing point of view. Yeah. So I saw a pass, which was looking good, but I went, start's not right. And what's wrong with it? It was like the dark, forbidding clouds. And it's like, Harry has a gift or his approach is to find the beautiful light and then hope the animal comes into shot. Yeah. So we needed to see that beautiful light as part of a montage of, getting to sense of what the film was about. And that was somewhere along the line in the editing process. And now we got something, in my eyes, and the guys seem to agree. It's, one of the things we had to do was go, look, they went to Antarctica for 3 weeks. There was 2 of them. It's not Schindler's List. Don't overboil it. Just tell the story as those guys, what they experienced. So it's a half-hour documentary. And what I love, they both had Z9 Nikons, and Sam's done a brilliant job of almost capturing moving imagery that fits with the stills imagery. Yeah. The light and the subject matter and stuff. And we couldn't have asked for more, with that.
Yeah. The great thing about that is that there's obviously a story with Harry and his journey about, bringing climate to the center of focus and going out to the Antarctic. And the thing that really was amazing was to see the whaling that was out there. Yeah. And the fact that all the animals had gone back. The whalers had gone and the animals said, all right, that's our land, thanks very much, and took it back. And it was just those moments in the film that bring it together as a really, really clever piece. So now you've done that, you've got that under your belt and you've enjoyed that. What's next? What does next look like for you?
There's an element of squeezing the juice out of Dare to Hope, as in making sure it gets a decent audience. But a lot of people have said it's quite an interesting educational piece.
Okay.
And we have a relationship and a bond with Harry that we want to do his next journey. But that's taking some contemplation between us all. So we will carry on. We will definitely keep working with Sam. But yeah, I mean, we invited a number of people to the screening, close clients and stuff, and then that's creating new things. So it's been postponed, but Wednesday, in 2 days' time, we were going to be doing a piece about a world champion boxer, female boxer.
Okay.
But that's been delayed. But yeah, we've got a number of things bubbling away. We've got a potential Caribbean project of changing people's perceptions of Caribbean islands and so on.
Okay.
We've identified that, it'll be not news to anyone that knows about filming, but there's 4 key stages to making a film, which is the preparation part, the capture, the post, and then the distribution.
And often the distribution is the last one everyone looks at. So,
my learning from Dare to Hope was there's a lot more involved than you give credit to when you start a project.
Yeah.
But as I think you get more experience, we will get relationships with streamers and all sorts of other stuff. But part of what we're doing, if you go back to maybe when you first watched Apprentice, when that came on TV in the UK, you realise that Alan Sugar's got relationships with people going back 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
They're very trusted relationships. I have that with printers. I've got a few printers that with that duration. But we used a company for our sound mix that called Hangman, that they do Coldplay and Kylie's sound and the Rolling Stones. So this is the second project we worked on with them, and that's a relationship developing. Same with yourselves. It's like I would love to bring Nathan and George in much earlier on our next project if budget's there. I'm
sure they would love that.
But it's like with your team Ryan and Sam working together, what would that produce? So there's an element of it's got to be the right thing. It's got to be we're commercially making films for dentists and lawyers and this, that, and the other. But we're documentary filmmakers as well, and that's what I can see us getting to a point where, all being well, we're making 2 or 3 projects of Dare to Hope size a year.
No, it's great because our journey began to some degree, certainly with yourself and Jerry, when we did the stuff for British Airways.
Yeah,
we often that was an interesting project that working with the team, Alistair Morrison and the guys, and then unfortunately went on the planes and then lockdown.
Yeah,
that was that was like, but we learned so much in the process to get there.
But everything's related in the sense that project reassured Harry that we could do something half-hour piece for him.
There you go. Yeah,
and I think Dare to Hope will be a door opener for lots of conversations to come.
It's a journey.
With us.
Yeah.
I think it's not always the most glamorous part of running a business that people sometimes skip over, but Jerry and I are putting an awful lot of effort now into a business plan, and every aspect of business planning, the financials, but our purpose, our mission statement, all that sort of stuff. So make an impact is our key message. That my personal purpose, I suppose, is as a creative, is to inspire and uplift people. So the uplift is not just, that was a nice film. It's like, well, what can I do today about climate change? Can I? We just launched a campaign with the World Wildlife Fund for Adopt a Penguin. Tiny little contribution each week, but it all counts.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And I think that's part of Harry's message is, don't worry about so much the grand gestures. It's like, can you do something around your home to cut down on your footprint today? So climate change is important to us, but I feel quite political at the moment. So, I just think our world is teetering on the edge in so many areas. But I don't feel party political. I feel much more, if you, through a film, can explain a complex thing, simplify it and say, I just listened to Joe Rogan interviewing Roger Waters, and he said, study as much as you can about a subject, then do the right thing. And it's
it's great. And I think for me, it's understanding that as a person, you've got your creativity, which is a powerful medium. It's not to be underestimated. It can be used for good and it can be used for bad, so to speak. And the thing with Dare to Hope, the thing with Alastair Morrison's journey, because he went from an artist right the way through to, as in a photography artist, and right the way through to actually working with normal human beings.
Yeah, he takes stunning. He's so close to fine art as a photographer now. Can Francis Bacon type pictures, but yeah, he's not. It's
more a force for good, isn't it?
Well, he's seen through celebrity on many levels, and he's more about humanity than just celebrity. You know? But yeah, I think you're right that there's something about a camera that is a very, very powerful tool. Whereas, what frustrates me about design, you talk about Maddox, go back to there a sec. Putting all this effort 4 years into building their identity, the brief was always, we want to be like Chanel and, like a Bond Street type, brand. And then 6 months after I've stepped out, they changed the brand identity. So I can't put that in my portfolio because it's like, well, you didn't do it. It's so there's something very transitory about aspects of design. Yeah. Whereas Dare to Hope in its form, that's it. That's the film people will see. And that's the beauty of YouTube.
You've done it, you upload it or wherever it goes, but it's there forever. Yeah. It's a piece that you can go back and watch. And, it's interesting when you look at logos that stand the test of time. Yeah. They're obviously more simple and they're classics. And then the brands that continually change their logo almost lose their identity.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think if you look at Nike, I mean, the Tick and reading his story.
Shoe Dog's one of the best books.
Shoe Dog, a brilliant book. If you've not read it, fantastic by Phil Knight, the founder of Nike. But that journey, that story was a student with the Tick, and then they've simplified it over the years, and it's an icon, and that's the reality of it. And I think if you keep changing brand, you lose your identity in the process. And film. These are you have a catalogue of work that becomes your identity. You talk about Christopher Nolan. You just say Christopher Nolan, you can think of his films, you can think of the cinematography, you can think of the music. You say Christopher Nolan, you then will think Hans Zimmer. There's this whole world that exists around him, and that body of work stands.
And it's that classic standing on the shoulders of giants. Another angle that Jerry and I are, basically going to move forward with is investing in kit ourselves. Not so much to tread on the shoes of the Sams of the world. It's actually like you're doing podcasts. There's a filmmaker called Nick Askew who makes what are called soul biographies, and he just puts a camera in front of people and he'll talk to them for 5-10 minutes, or the final piece will be that long. And I love his pieces because they're just deep psychological studies of someone talking about happiness or talking about teamwork or whatever. So we want to do a degree of, before we really get to grips with someone, we're working with, or we did a film with Tom Dean, who's the swimmer who got 2 gold medals at the Tokyo Games. We did a film about him a year before that. And basically, he's a big guy, but he stands taller with those 2 medals. When he walks in a room with some young kids with the 2 medals, they're just like wide-eyed, and he's got this opportunity. He's made for life from those 2 medals. So he's immortalized, but he's got this opportunity to be a role model. And it's like, we want to interview him to see
how life has changed from
how life's changed, but what he wants to do, because he's going to try and win gold again. It's never been done before in his 200-meter freestyle. Phelps and Thorpe and none of these people did it 2 games running. Right. But he only, we interviewed his coach, when Tom was 19, 20, and he goes, he's going to be great for not this Olympics, next Olympics. But Tom's an uber competitor, champion guy, and he won by 400th of a second. Wow. Tight. It's funny, my because he's basically the son of my brother's partner, and they couldn't go to Tokyo, so they set up a TV screen in their garden, filmed it all with the neighbours, and that videos had 50 million views. If you want to be excited about sport, it's the best. Look at Tom Dean's Family or whatever on YouTube. Yeah. It's a brilliant video. But so, there's hopefully projects with sports people, just anyone that, is making an impact. Is that, we're well suited to work with people who have that purpose, who have and that's a story to tell.
It's one of those. It's one of the things I always talk about. Is like follow the cause, not the cash.
Yes. Build
on impact, not income.
Yeah.
And then somehow the cash and the income takes care of itself.
Yeah.
And that's the reality of it long term.
Yeah.
There's someone just walked behind us.
Nice bright jumper.
Yeah. Bright red jumper. Yeah. So let's go back there.
Okay.
So one of the things that I like, and one of the things that you talk about is about impact, is chase the impact, not the income.
Yeah.
Follow the cause, not the cash.
Yeah.
And in doing so, that takes care of itself.
Yeah.
But if you're making impact and you've doubled down on the cause, the money follows. That's the reality of it. And it's not always the most important thing is the money, but I think people use that as an excuse to say, well, I can't make an impact because I've got to get so much money before I start. Yeah. And the reality is that with you making your moves and movies, what's great about it is that you're starting where you are. You're investing yourself in people that are making a big splash. If it's a diver or you certainly with Harry Skeggs and his photography and bringing sort of like things of the world into view, into focus. You're not waiting. And that's what I like about it. Yeah. It's like a journey. And, you've been on a tremendous journey already. It's been a privilege to be part of that journey. And I think we've done some tremendous stuff. And I really do look forward to us working together more, doing more stuff on impact, more focused on cause. And thank you so much for having you as part of the podcast.
I'll sort of give you one insight that I've had recently, which might be telling, is that I know two, really stellar artists, amazing, successful artists, both oil painters. But it isn't about the oil and the canvas. It's what those people are. That just happens to be their medium.
Yeah.
And I feel that now Jerry and I were FilmDuo, we found our medium.
Yeah.
So this 360 sound, like this, that, and the other. But literally, if you park the film a moment, it's like, what life experience do we bring to storytelling and filmmaking? Yeah. That's what it's really about, is we look at Harry and go, that guy needs a bigger platform.
Yeah.
Because he's important.
Yeah.
And we'll see it with the swimmer or the boxer or whatever it is. It's an artist can look for their art form, but sometimes it's just actually working on themselves as well to know what their values are and what their purpose is.
Which is your journey, and you almost come full circle. Yeah. You started the whole podcast in the conversation. You were an artist without a medium. You found that medium, and now you're going looking for artists.
Exactly.
People, whether it's sport, whether it's in the arts or whatever, giving that sense to lift them to the level of influence that actually means their message is heard. So thank you so much.
Pleasure. It's been really fun.
I'm sure you'll be back.
Yeah, exactly.
All right,
cheers.